All right, welcome everyone. My name is ShillBill. Just gonna jump back in today and have a bit of a look at the charts and try and match some of that stuff up to some of the news that we've had. So with the AXS staking, the airdrop, quite a bit's happened since we've done one of these videos, and just want to try and have a look at the charts and sort of see how they correlate and what they look like when we get these kind of news events. I'm going to have a look a bit in the breeding and the I'll check my manager's hat on too, and let you guys know what I'm doing as a breeder manager, also trader. So I guess we jump in first, and we'll probably have a look at Bitcoin, because we've had this quite a big move in the last 3-4 hourly candles. As I said in the last video that I did, looking at Bitcoin, it does dictate what the rest of the market wants to do. So I was watching this level of resistance here at 50k. Pretty big psychological number. Plus we've got all of this. If we zoom back in, we've got the back over to the left. We've got that as quite a big level of support and resistance, depending on which way we're coming through it. You can see it a lot more better on the daily here. So if we're looking at Bitty, it does dictate what everything else is worth essentially in USD prices. So what we're looking for is the break of this 50k, and then there was pretty much clean air, right, all the way up until 60. So I said if it breaks 50, it's going to get to 60 pretty quick. Looks like we've broken that. We came back, retested on the 4 hour, and which was pretty much exactly what we had here. Those 9 candles, 1 to 3 pullback. We got the buyback here, and this does look like it's heading up to that 60, and you can see where we are from here. These 5 candles are good if they retrace a little bit for red, just so the RSI and things like that have a bit of a room to breathe. But normally I'm looking for these nice 5 candles. They also can be good pullbacks if you can jump into the 1 hour and retrace off a FIP level. But I'm looking for this to then again run out this 9 all the way up, and we should get there around about here. So not much resistance in the way. We're starting to get a bit oversold, but I think this does make its way up to 60 and see what we do from there. Now, while it does dictate the market, this is one of the charts that I do look at. So Bitcoin dominance basically measures how alts are doing. The way I like to look at it simply is how alts are doing against BTC. So most of the alts have their BTC pairing. You can see here ETH has a BTC pairing, which we're watching on this channel that was this bearish channel that was coming down, had multiple touches. When Bitcoin goes on a run, I think I was talking about this a little bit in the last EBC video that we did when we had a look at the markets. When Bitcoin goes on a run, either way, either it has a run upwards that's a bit of a violent move like we've seen here with BTC, where we've got this really strong move upwards, or we have a strong move downwards. The BTC pairings, so all the coins measured against BTC, seem to get pretty crushed, and we saw here we've got about, how much was it? Let's have a look. Yeah, about 10% drop in ETH versus what it was with BTC. But you can see BTC is having a bit of a break at the moment on that 5 candle, and we have hit a level of support down here. So I'm expecting this. If we pop that up here, we can get those touches. So we're watching this. I'm expecting this to have a little bit of a bounce back up, bit of a recovery, and then sort of see what Bitcoin is doing and come back, hopefully break the sideways out of this channel. So back to the dominance chart. When this does rise, BTC goes on that big move. All the pairs drop in BTC value, but they do still hold quite well in their US dollar value. So we'll look at the US dollar chart for ETH. This is what we're looking at for breeders, and for me when for how profitable it is for breeding for me in US dollars. So we're wanting to see ETH have this nice collecting as much as you can from selling Axies, holding that ETH, and then looking for an exit point from your ETH back into US dollars to take profits from your breeding. So this chart looks really strong. We're starting to close right at this level of resistance now. Higher highs, higher lows. we're above both the moving averages, the 50 and the 200 here, and going to pull into that nice golden cross. Just waiting for this level here at about the 36.30, and I want a 4-hour close in this box for then ETH to make its next, pretty decent move up. And what's going to push that is going to be the ETH BTC pairing. So when this has a bit of a recovery to get it through there, if Bitcoin chills out for a little bit and just goes a little bit sideways, we're going to see this recover at least to back to the top of this channel. From here, you get a 6% move in here. If BTC's not moving too much at all against the US dollar, we'll see that same sort of 6% move from the USD chart on ETH. And what I'm looking for here is a 6% move is to get us to the top of this and land back in. So what I'm watching for ETH at the moment is for it to break this level, come up close on the 4-hour candle, and I'll be looking to buy a retest back off this area here, somewhere in this box, to then trade this next level up. But ETH looks super strong. Even if we pop the Bollinger Bands on, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, we're back above the middle. Starting to close up a little bit, and we're looking for that big move here. So you can see these big moves where the Bollinger Bands, they tighten right up, and we're watching it to be sitting on top of the middle of the Bollinger and make its next move. So pretty interested in ETH at the moment, especially what it does over the next sort of 12 hours. Don't know if the video would already be edited and uploaded by then, but really watching for ETH. I'm bullish long term on ETH anyway, so a lot of my strategies as a manager breeder is, even absolute floor axes. We're still looking at nearly 0.05 ETH. 20 of them, and you got an ETH. At the moment, not profitable to be breeding and having absolute floor axes, which is great because for a while there it was still profitable to be selling just anything. So you could just breed anything at all. You didn't have to have any sort of decent breeding pairs. Didn't have to worry about genes and purity and stuff like that. You could just, for a while there when these were selling for like 0.119 ETH, like I could jump in and have a look at mine. I floor sold a bunch of mine for like nearly 0.2 ETH. It wasn't even costing that much in the AXS and SLP to make them, and they were selling for higher than that. Now it's started to get a little bit different. So if we're looking at breeds at the moment, sort of current prices from this morning, we're looking at breeding virgin 4 times. It averages out to be costing you about $247 or 0.068 ETH. So if you're breeding absolute trash, the floor in the ETH is, you're going to be losing 0.02 ETH each. So you don't want to be breeding badly. That's really good for the long term, and especially for people that were sort of breeding out and giving scholarships on trash floor axes and things like that. There needs to be some sort of punishment for breeding bad. Otherwise, the breeding just gets out of control, and everyone just keeps going through and minting those from the daily quests. It does make it a little bit harder for people. Put my manager hat on. If you've got scholars, you need to make sure that you're breeding well, because that's where all the SLP comes from, essentially from the farming now. In PvP, since they've slashed the daily rewards down to 75. So at the moment, I'm liking this new sort of move where it's punishing if you're breeding bad for 4 times, you're losing quite a lot of money per breed. But on the flip side, this is why everyone should come and join EBC and use all their tools. If you're breeding well, so breeding floor for anything decent, so like any of the aquas, the kois, any of the tanks, even the beasts to a point at the moment, they have dropped a little bit. Beasts and birds have dropped just because of the meta. They're probably around the 0.1, so you're still making nearly 0.03 ETH, which is $130 per breed. So breeding at the moment for me is still super profitable as long as I have the good stock and purity to breed things that people want to buy. And I do use a lot of the tools over at EBC to look and see where the volume is and what people are buying. And as long as I've got enough stock to breed those, it's still very profitable to be breeding and just selling at the moment every 5 days. So you're probably still looking at around $100 per breed every 5 days. And you can do that as much as you have enough money for, I guess. But yeah, breeding's still super profitable at the moment. And just the way the market's sitting. And for me, banking up as much ETH as I can. If this does go on this run and breaks through, those dollars in the marketplace as well, as long as we're still selling for around about the same price in ETH, the actual dollar price of all the ETH that you're making profit will also get this nice bumper up as well. So it does sort of multiply itself out if ETH does go on a run. All right, let's have a look at AXS. So what I'm looking for, AXS on the 4 hour, starting to show signs of weakness. We had this was here, right? So this is where the staking came in. And we had this up, this was nearly 400%, I think, for the first couple of days. Got that news, 400%, AXS went nuts. Because you're basically making 1% a day for all your AXS. You could have 100 staked, and we're just getting a free breed or a free half a breed, the AXS portion, pretty much every day. So a lot of people that did get airdropped quite a lot of AXS. They were very smart when they've released the staking, right? So if the APR here wasn't so high when everyone got airdropped their AXS, I think there would have been a lot of downward selling pressure on the market. However, not only the people that got airdropped it, that got the AXS, wanted to stake all the AXS because it was easy. It was literally a couple of buttons click to stake it because it already was in their Ronin wallets. They were earning, crazy APR, and it's going to be that crazy sort of for the first month. So there was no incentive for the people that got airdropped all their stuff to just go and dump that airdrop on the market. I think it was like 10,000 people. So for AXS, I was very interested and watched closely because I thought if without the staking, there would have been huge amounts of selling pressure on AXS. And if everyone gets airdropped their stuff and everyone's like, cool, free money, I'm going to sell it, I'm going to put it into Bitcoin, I'm going to go put it into ETH, or I want to take it as a bit of profit and spend, there would have been a huge amount of selling pressure with all this new AXS that was then available, essentially sort of floating around the economy, that would have just really pushed the price the same way as we're seeing, the price of SLP getting pushed down because of this. Huge amounts of breeding, nothing to do with it. It just gets sold. So very, very smart by Axie releasing that crazy APR at the same time that they did the airdrop, because it really did push the price. We had like 110%, I think, move, 118% move from when it was staked. So now just seeing those, those signs of that lower high here. So we've had that run up, we've came back, had a nice little retrace, pretty much came right back to these wicks here. We had buyers and either watching for a next move up. So for me, I'm looking at closes above here, or I've also got an alert set here. You can see I wouldn't mind buying again back off of this level of support. So it has gone up, 100% is too much to be sustainable. And watching this for coming back down and having a bit of a retrace. I've got alerts to buy here. We're looking at possibly, a little bit of a scalp. Even if it's 10%, it's still a good scalp. You can probably get, 10% back up to these levels here. So alerts for me are set, but for long term or a longer hold of AXS, I'm wanting to watch this break and hold above the 143 mark, which would essentially put it into all-time high territory again. We can see here when it tried to get back in, it just had failed. If you go on the hourly, we've got this downtrend here. We broke. Is this to come back and retest, or do we sort of sit here sideways for a little while and wait for some new news? Yes, so my alert set back here, we've got this nice level of resistance, and try and scalp some of this AXS back up for some free breeds. But at the moment, as I said before, it's still 165% for your staking. So at this point here, I think this really does show on. It's actually probably a good time to look at it. We can look here. All right, so we got these times here where we had problems with the mint versus burn, and this is what we talked about in the last video for ABC, where it's like they have to do something to fix it up. Otherwise, this is just going to continue to grow, and there's going to be all this minted SLP out there, which just causes massive selling pressure on the markets. No good for managers, because with all that downward selling pressure, you're just going to end up having lower and lower SLP prices. Looking here, we did get that news where we got the SLP portion of the breeding to come up nearly double, and that worked for a little bit until we get to the day where AXS gets staked, right? And it was still going pretty good. We were still getting, it's not great, 350 minted, 85. The ratio is still not great. It's like, it's nearly, 4-1? It's still quite bad. But even on those days, we did have some big minting days, so some of the scholarships might have been claiming. However, as we spoke about in the last video, even if this portion here moves up and we start getting more burned from breeding, because that's the only way we can burn at the moment is from breeding, is as this goes up, as more breeds happen, the minted part also goes up here, right? Because more get bred. They're not just sitting around not being used. So people that breed the Axies are most likely, managers, and they're expanding their scholarships. So you kind of get that sort of multiplying effect where it's like, okay, cool, we've bred heaps more, but now we've got heaps more Axies that are also making heaps more. So it's going to also increase the mint value here. So it did work for a little bit. Everyone sort of waited because they had a bunch of AXS. Everyone's probably kicking themselves now because the AXS that they burnt from this new mint date essentially would be worth nearly 100% more. So you were actually better off holding AXS rather than burning as much as you could from that mint. So that did kind of suck for breeders and managers. I did the same thing. I rebred a bunch of stuff because it was half price of AXS and I had an abundance of SLP sort of floating around from my scholars. Hindsight, should have just held the AXS and tried to sell the top. So now we're getting to a point here where the burn rate's getting back to what it was, 43 million, 41 million, 40 million, and we're getting back to the 40s. We even had a day of 33, and these days have the burn has decreased because no one wants to burn their AXS because they can get 165% APR. So by burning it and using it as a breed, while this is probably getting to the edge now where it's actually more profitable to turn your AXS into scholarship breeds than it is just to stake it. But it was going to be like that for the first part of the month. And as I said before, the other thing of doing this was airdropping people and them dumping the market and the AXS pricing, the price of AXS, just getting crushed. So not much you can really do. This probably worked out in one of the better scenarios here. So people have stopped breeding because they can just stake the AXS, so there's no need to breed. So there's still all these new Axies making more SLP, minting it, but no one wants to really be expanding at the moment because they can get a better ROI from doing absolutely nothing and just staking the AXS. And by staking the AXS, they can pull that together and they can create more breeds in the future. So a bit of a weird situation there. Really interested in watching sort of how that plays out. But having a look back at the charts now in SLP. So that's my sort of take on AXS. what I'm looking for. I got alerts set for scalps, and at the moment I'm not too sure if I will be using them myself to expand anymore, watching what SLP does, or I'll just be popping them back into that passive income from the staking. So SLP, last thing we want to sort of have a look at here. Let's jump back on the 4 hour. This is where I want to be looking at. So we've got two charts. When we looked at the ETH before, we looked at the BTC pairing. So this is essentially the opportunity cost that you have from holding ETH instead of BTC. You're 10% worse off. However, sometimes you're much better off holding ETH rather than BTC. So at the moment, we're sort of hitting that level here. The same kind of thing happens with the SLP ETH pairing because there's no tradable SLP BTC pairing. On Binance, it's always been in the ETH pairing, which is good because I like collecting more ETH because I'm more bullish on ETH itself long term, or long to mid term ish, the next year or two. Against Biddy, I think it's got a lot of good things going for it, and will most likely, in my own opinion, never financial advice, beat Bitcoin. So what I'm looking for ETH over the long term is that this chart here, you can see we've had this, I'm looking for something like this over the next year where it is going to beat Bitcoin. It just looks so good. There's like higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. We're consolidating a bit and just waiting for it to, really break this and become stronger against Bitcoin. Sorry, diverged a little bit into something that we weren't talking about. All right, so SLP ETH pairing, we are now consolidating in this box between the sort of the 2,000 and the 3,000 ETHs. We've broken this long downtrend that's been there for such a long time, and we've finally broken above this 50 moving average. This is what I've been posting up in EBC in the Discord, in my videos when I'm not too lazy to do one. Is that since we've been below this 50 moving average after we had the death cross here, we just haven't been able to get past it. And every time we're on this downtrend, same thing, touch. Every time we touched it, just got rejected. We finally found a bottom here. They released the news about the new SLP. That's when we broke. And I think when we're doing the video, that's what we're waiting for, was like the end of this downtrend and to get back above this 50 moving average. The extra SLP, it helped for a little bit, but didn't really do so much. You can see back in here, like it helped, but it just slowly went back down and didn't really have the impact. In my own opinion, I think they should have upped the SLP cost way more. I think they should have like tripled or quadrupled it and really start bringing these two close together. They have the power to do it, right? So they're getting these two much closer together. Just make it super hard for people to breed, or just make it costly for people to breed, which will in turn, push the price of SLP up. It'll also, the only thing it doesn't do is have, if we look at the marketplace, is push this number here up. So we're back to 20 million a day now. That was getting down to 12 before they made that change, but it is essentially the 4.5% fee, or whatever it is that goes, I think, to the treasury. That would slow down, but in my opinion, making SLP much more than what it was. So they went from 3 to 600, whatever. I think the average cost now for a 4 breed from a virgin is about 5,400 SLP. Before that, it was 3,300 if you're breeding 4 times from a virgin. I think pushing it to 10K for 4 breeds just really forces people to either, okay, cool, this is how much it's going to cost, because this can't keep going the way it is. It's the same as a money printer, right? You need to shut it off before it gets out of control. Otherwise your SLP is just never going to be worth anything, because there's just so much out there. I haven't had to buy SLP off the market for so long. Anyone with scholarships, and they're the ones that are going to be using these to... all this burning is going to come from managers and building scholarships. It's not going to be from 84 million people, burned. There's not 84 million people playing Axie that are going to burn them. It is the money comes from the managers and that have the scholarships. So they need to really be, in my opinion, upping the price of this, because this can't again get out of control where the ratio from burn to mint is so high. So what we're seeing now on this chart, sorry I digressed a little bit back into my managers and breeder hat. We're sitting in this box right of consolidation, and we need to either break the top and hopefully not break the bottom. So we're finally above the 50 moving average here, and where we did get above the 200 for a sec, but now we pulled back. But we're getting this the opposite way. When we had the death cross, we get the golden cross with the 50 moving average crossing back above, but we also need to be above both of these things for that to happen. So we need to break the top of this box. We had that resistance here again. We had structure here, and we hit it again on that 9. I was hoping for a 1 to 3 candle pullback and make that higher high. Didn't happen. So again, the same thing I was looking at with the closing above the box, as we saw with that ETH pair. I want it closed above this level of resistance to make sure all the buyers are gone. Looking for the same in the SLP versus ETH. So just waiting and seeing what happens if we go here. I'm also going to be probably scalping the bottom of this box. So if we get some, if we get back down to the bottom, I'm definitely going to be buying here as well to try and scalp up. Even if it's 44% of the top of the box, even back to sort of this level here is a nice little 20% scalp. So movements can be, in percentage wise, they're quite volatile in SLP, which is great. But just knowing when you should be buying and when you should be selling, especially from a manager's perspective, if you're making scholarships and you've got your claims, like what do you do when you get your claim? Are you going to hold it for a little bit? Personally, for me at the moment, I'm holding to see what happens here. I don't really feel like breeding at the moment, because we do get these very violent movements up and down, and just waiting to sort of see what happens here. So if we break the top, I'm probably going to be holding a couple of my sinks from my scholars every 14-15 days, and not selling or burning, and just waiting to try and get a decent price for SLP to start taking some profits. And if we're looking at it on the USD version here, we're getting that same thing, right? We've got that same nice downtrend here, finally broken. This has been going since like July. So we got the nice downtrend, which is broken and pulling into that golden cross. So again, same kind of thing. I can probably push this box up a little bit, and we do get the benefit of Bitcoin going up, because it essentially just helps the dollar price here for SLP. So for me, I'm always selling my SLP from sinks anywhere between 16 and 23 cents. That's my own personal target, because of my average buy-in that I've worked out. This is a good price for me to sell. In here, it's not a good price for me to really be doing anything apart from breeding. However, we're getting that new market structure. So we've got the higher high here compared to here, and this could be that higher low. So we're getting that nice new market structure. If we draw it on here, as long as it continues, whoops, that's not what I want. We're getting that nice new market structure. If that is it, we need to break that and then go to here. These are the points here where I'm looking at exiting some of my SLP back into profits, if we're looking at that as a manager standpoint. But at the moment, there's not really anything. I'm just sort of holding onto it and not burning it. Through breeds, I've been expanding the whole way down. So like as I've been going down, I've just been expanding until we got that change of market structure. Now we're finally getting a change of market structure on the 4 hour. This is the first time it's happened in sort of 3 months. Now we're starting to see that change of market structure. Now the time is for me personally, is to be taking sinks as holding SLP and looking for an exit price over the next couple of months, and then sort of see what it does from there. All right, guys. We'll do a Q&A. This is just about to hit that 30-minute mark, which is probably a little bit too long. Doing a Q&A over at EBC as well. So we'll do a live one of those for 20-30 minutes or so, and we can have a look at some charts live. I'll jump on the Zoom with Prophecy and probably someone else. But thanks for watching. Hope that was a bit insightful of what I'm looking at as a trader, breeder, manager, trying to wear all the hats at once. But this is what I'm looking at, and SLP price is probably the biggest one for a manager, for a breeder, AXS, and the staking price, keeping an eye on that one there, to sort of seeing how much it does cost, and yeah, looking at the average cost of breeds. All right, guys, hope to see you in there for the Q&A. Hope that helped, and see you later.